So we'd like to thank you for being here. We're talking about ownership and conveyance of water rights. It's one of the most important things we do here at the Division of Water Rights, so we're glad to see that people are interested in it, and we hope you take something away from this. And it doesn't always end up being the most exciting topic, but I know Sue and Dan have worked hard, and I don't know, I'm kind of confused. I think Sue said she was doing a juggling act later. I'm not sure. Is that right? I don't know. It's worth sticking around to find out. I'm not sure. Yeah. So we'll see about that. So some of the goals here, we understand that in this room there's people that have been working with water rights for 10, 15, 20 years, and there's other people that before, a few weeks ago didn't really know what a water right is. So we're also streaming on YouTube so people can follow along and go back and look at these recordings. So we're trying to appeal to a varying audience, different levels of experience, and so we hope that those of you that have that experience will bear with us during the water rights basics portion, and those of you that may not have a ton of experience will stick around through the whole thing. So we want to show off some of the tools and capabilities that our website and that have. It's a very powerful thing, and we hope that you guys will take advantage of it. So we're going to show some of that throughout the training. In the past, we've kind of done a 30-minute section at the end, and we thought it would be more strategic and effective to actually show you the website as we're going and talking about some of these things. So, and of course, the ultimate goal is to get you guys to understand how to properly fill out a report of conveyance, and hopefully we'll start getting error-free reports of conveyance so we can process those, get them off our desks, and have everybody be happy. So that's the ultimate goal here. So let's jump right in and talk about some of the water rights basics. So what is a water right? There's a certain elements that make up a water right. First and foremost, there's a point of diversion. So you're diverting water from some sort of natural stream or natural water. And to go along with that, you're going to have a source of supply. So is it Big Spring Creek? Is it No Name Spring? What's the source? There's some kind of use associated with that, so there's a reason you're diverting the water. You're putting it to use, so what is that use? There's a diversion and a depletion associated with that, which we won't get into a whole lot of. There's a priority date, so when was that water first put to use? When did you apply for that water? A period of use, and typically we see two periods of use. One is year-round, and the other is irrigation season, so April 1st to October 31st typically. There are cases where they don't fit that, but that's mostly what we see. And probably one of the most important things, at least for you guys, is the place of use. We use the public land survey system to define a 40-acre tract, a section, township, and range. And we use further identifiers such as parcel number, these sorts of things to further identify it, because a 40-acre tract, when you're talking about a quarter acre of irrigation, isn't very descriptive. And of course, as you guys know, there's got to be an owner associated with that water right. So water right numbers we identify with an area code and a serial number, and the area code just depends on where you're at in the state. So for example, somewhere in Utah County, you may see a 51. That's the area code for a lot of Utah County down there, and the serial number following it is what we use to identify that water right number. So just an example, 515 could be your water right number. So when people call us, we typically, the first thing we ask is, to try and help people out is what water right number are we dealing with? So that's kind of how we identify it, and we have a file jacket upstairs for each water right that we have of record. So as you can imagine, we have hundreds of thousands of files up there. If you've ever been in there, it's almost overwhelming, but it's kind of cool to see. You can't talk about water rights and water rights basics without mentioning prior appropriation. And I include this map on there to kind of give an idea of why prior appropriation was adopted and why you have riparian rights in the east versus prior appropriation in the west. So in the east, you can see how much water and rainfall they get every year. So riparian rights, which we don't recognize, but I like to mention because I can't tell you how many phone calls we field having people say, well, I've got a creek in my backyard, so I'd like to divert that water. In the east, if you live adjacent to that water, you're allowed to divert a reasonable amount and put it to beneficial use. In the west, that's not quite how it works. Just because you live next to a stream or a creek or something like that doesn't entitle you to use that water. Prior appropriation basically says that the first to divert the water and put it to beneficial use is first in right. So the first settlers and miners that came out here and started putting this water to use, they were the first ones to divert it. They were the ones to get first priority on it. So this is something that's very important, and I'm just going to read this here. The beneficial use shall be the basis, the measure, and the limit of all rights to the use of water in the state. So that's how we kind of measure water, is by its beneficial use. So I'll kind of explain that a little bit as we go throughout here, but that's an important principle to understand. So when we're talking about beneficial use, what is it that you're using this water for? And the three common ones we see are stock watering, domestic use, and irrigation. There's countless ways you can use the water. We see it for mining, industrial, commercial, wildlife propagation. You name it, it's been used. That's how it's been used. So, but the three common ones are stock watering, domestic, and irrigation. And municipal, of course. I can't forget municipal. Typically, we have duties for these uses, and so for a domestic use, we quantify it with 0.45 acre feet per household. And if it's a part-time, like a recreational use, a cabin, we identify it as 0.25 acre feet. Stock watering is 0.028 acre feet per what we call equivalent livestock unit, and that means a large animal. So a cow or a horse is one equivalent livestock unit. When you get to smaller animals, it takes more to make up one equivalent livestock unit. So 5 goats would be one equivalent livestock unit. 33, and if you can believe it, a third of a chicken is one equivalent livestock unit. It's kind of interesting how you make up a third of a chicken, but and so as far as irrigation goes, it's we have a duty value depending on where you're at in the state. Ranges typically from 3 to 6 acre feet of water to irrigate 1 acre. So if you're in Cedar City, you look at this map and you can look down at Cedar City. You can see there it's in an area where it's green, so that would be 4 acre feet per 1 acre of irrigation. So these duties are used to ultimately get a volume of water that is being used. So how much, as we said, we're defining it by the beneficial use. So how much acre feet of water do you need to meet those needs? And so, yes, and we have, since we are recording, we do have a microphone so that everybody can hear your question. That way, when people go back and listen to the recording, I can try and repeat. For this purpose, I'll repeat it. Go ahead.
Have you broken out an allocable use for domestic irrigation in the instances of, for instance, a system that has a secondary water system for domestic communities, city or something?
So the question is, have we broken it out for domestic irrigation.
So you have a 0.45 acre allocation for residents.
Right.
That's great. But if you have a system where you have a secondary water system in the residential area, you have a subset allocation for that particular kind of use.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and just to clarify, the 0.45 acre feet is indoor domestic use. So we're talking dishwasher, shower, everything like that. And so, yeah, the secondary would be different, and that would depend on the area you're in, and so, yeah, we have broken it out though to answer your question in a very vague sense. Yeah, go ahead.
So you say for irrigation it's 36 acre feet per acre. Is that for a year? Is that per year or per day or?
Yeah, and so that would be associated with the period of use. So it would be from April 1st to October 31st typically. In some areas we see it, the period of use is different, but yes, so it's per irrigation season for irrigation. Yeah. So some people aren't familiar with, us in water rights, we use acre feet, and we use that term a lot, but some people don't understand what that is. So just imagine a swimming pool that's 1 acre in size and 1 foot deep, and you filled it to the top. That's what an acre foot of water is. So it's a healthy amount of water that we're talking about. The other measurement that you'll likely see when you're dealing with water rights is a flow measurement, and we measure that in cubic feet per second. We've been kind of striving to quantify in a volume, an acre foot volume, but you will see flow rates associated with water rights as well. So one of the most important concepts that we need to talk about is perfected versus unperfected water rights. So I'm going to talk about unperfected first, and then I'll describe what a perfected water right is. So an unperfected water right could mean an approved application to appropriate, an unapproved application to appropriate, or it could be an unacceptably filed diligence claim that we did not accept. Perfected does not mean approved. When we're talking about perfected water rights, basically what we mean is that it's been verified in some fashion, and you'll see when I'm describing what common perfected water rights look like, that you'll see they've been verified either by the courts or by the state engineer. So an example of a perfected water right could be a water right with a certificate of beneficial use on it. So this means that the state engineer has gone out, reviewed, and verified that this use is taking place, how it's being used, and where it's being used, and we issued a certificate of beneficial use. At that point, when you get that certificate of beneficial use, you now have a perfected water right. So it's gone through that kind of review and verification process. Same thing with a diligence claim, and this can either be surface or underground. For underground, you often see it called an underground water claim, and you see that quite frequently here in the Salt Lake Valley. It could also mean a water user claim filed in a general determination, or it could be a decree, a court-ordered decree. So as you can see, with all of these, they've been verified by state engineer's office or the courts. Okay, that's what makes it a perfected water right. On our database, we have an area where you can actually look at the type of right, and it gives you a clue as to whether it's perfected or unperfected. So I've kind of, in this red box, I've highlighted where it shows the type of right, and over under status it says it's certificated, which means it is perfected. There's one kind of warning, and at the top you'll see that it says water rights makes no claims as to the accuracy of this data. So really the true status lies in the physical file and the scanned document. Sometimes our database isn't always accurate. As I said, there's hundreds of thousands of water rights out there. Not all of them have been verified on our database. You know, you can pretty well count on it, but you always want to verify with the scanned documents and or physical file. So just make sure you're aware of that and some of the limitations of the database, that it's not always error-free. This is what there's a new interface that we've been kind of transitioning to, and this is what it looks like. It's all the, kind of all the same information, but I just wanted to show you, if you go on our database and you see it looks a little different than what I put up there, this is where that type of right is. It's got, like I said, all the same information, just a little bit different interface. Okay, there's two ways you can research water rights with us. There's the electronic files, which you can go on our website. It has all the scans of what's on our physical file. It's got all the information that you can get from the actual hard physical file. And you can find that at our waterrights.utah.gov, or you are also welcome to come into our office and actually pull the physical files and look at them. They can't leave our office, but you're more than welcome to come in and browse through them and for your viewing pleasure. Okay, there's a couple terms that I think are important to you guys that I just want to define in the most basic way I can. And so here we have a 1 acre field, and I've kind of delineated, I just mocked this up, so don't go looking for this. You won't find it anywhere. But so I'm saying on this 1 acre field that there are 2 water rights that irrigate this 1 acre field. And so there's a purple and a blue shading here. So 2 water rights irrigating 1 acre. So we have, and I cringe when I say this, but we have this term called supplemental. Water rights can be used supplementally. So when you're using it for a common purpose and a common place of use, they can be used supplementally. So there are 2 water rights making up this 1 acre of irrigation. So we have this term called sole supply, which is basically the amount that a given water right is contributing to this overall group total. And so the sole supply for this, the contribution from each water right, is a 1/2 acre. Okay? The group total would be 1 acre. Sole supply for each of these water rights is a 1/2 acre. I know it's a very basic example, and kind of, I don't want to dive into it any more than that. We have plenty of trainings where we do, but I just want to make you aware that there's, of these terms, sole supply and group total. Okay? This is the last concept that I'm going to share with you guys before I turn it over to Sue and Dana. But oftentimes we deal with people that are confused about a water right versus a water share. So I just want to, again, in the most basic way I can, describe to you what the difference is, and so you're aware. So it is important for title purposes, very important. So again, I just kind of mocked something up here. When you're talking about water shares, there is a water right involved, but it's owned by an irrigation or a canal company, and they create shares of stock, and people go out and they can purchase shares of stock, and it allows them to use a portion of that water company's water right. Okay? So in this example, we have ABC Canal Company, and they have 5 acre feet, let's just say, for I use this for easy math, and so they created 5 shares of stock and issued it to farmer A, B, C, D, and E. So farmer A through E each get 1 acre feet of water through the company's water right. So each farmer has a water share that allows them to irrigate or use whatever, typically irrigation, but allows them to use that 1 acre feet of water, okay? again, just to show you here, it doesn't have to be evenly distributed, but we have farmer A and B. Farmer A with 3 acre-feet of water, farmer B with 2 acre-feet of water. Okay. I want to show you this. This is actually a real share of stock in East Jordan Irrigation Company. This individual has 15.5 shares of stock in East Jordan Irrigation Company that allows them to use that. Each company's, each company has a different, each share is worth a different amount for each company. So for East Jordan, I didn't go and look it up. I don't know exactly how many acre-feet this entitles this person to use. So if East Jordan was 1 acre-feet per share of stock, they would be allowed to divert 15.5 acre-feet on using this share under East Jordan Irrigation's water right. So this person does not have a water right, they have a water share, okay? They are diverting under East Jordan Irrigation Company's water right, but they have a water share. And the reason that this is important is because they transfer differently. Well, at least most likely for you guys, that's why it's important. So Sue and Dana will talk about how water rights are transferred, but how water shares are transferred as securities as set forth in the company's articles and bylaws and by Title 70A, Chapter A, Uniform Commercial Code investment securities. So typically what happens is when somebody purchases a water share from somebody, they go to the water, they go back to that canal company or irrigation company and get those stocks reissued in the new owner's name. Okay, and the water company will keep track of the ownership of that. So we're not, does that make sense? Everybody clear on that? Oh, we gotta, hang on just 1 second. Okay.
Oh, I don't want to use that. You want to use that? I don't want to use that.
Next question.
It's just so people on the recording can hear what your question is. Yes. Does that change your mind?
If you were trying to find your water shares, let's say the house caught on fire and all your certificates burned, how would you track those down?
So she asked, how would you find your, yeah, didn't seem to work. So how do you find your water shares, and let's say your house burned down and you lost your stock certificate? You can go back to the company and they should have record of that. So that would be through the irrigation or canal company, not through the Division of Water Rights.
So if there are like 14 of them, you'd have to contact each individual company, and some of them, do all of them provide stock or only some?
Yeah, if you had, her question was, if you have 14 shares through the same company or different companies?
Multiple.
Yeah, so if you're, let's say you were in Fruitland, unfortunately, and the Dollar Ridge fire got your house and you weren't able to get those documents out, you would go back to each irrigation company that you had shares in and get with them, and they can take care of you. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to turn the time over to Sue right now, and they'll get to the real meat and potatoes of this presentation. So thank you guys.
Okay, we want to welcome everyone today. We want to thank you also for your attendance. We do appreciate your interest in the conveyance of water rights. For those of you that do not know us personally, I am Sue Glenn, and this is Dana Dredge, and we are both the title program specialists with the Division of Water Rights. So it may be that you have talked to us on the phone, we just haven't met face-to-face yet. Hopefully it's all been favorable. People also know us as the title team at the division because we do work closely together with the conveyance of water rights. So we were asked to speak today about the conveyance of water rights with you. Now, unlike what Chris said, I am not up here to do a juggling performance for you, nor is Dana, but we are going to use the metaphor of juggling in this presentation. So since Dana and I do title every day, we do understand that there are multiple facets to the conveyance of water rights and the title and RLC process that you are expected to juggle. So, and sometimes you can really feel like you are tossing and catching multiple balls as you are trying to learn the complexity of water rights, as you're trying to navigate through our database. And then there's understanding the administrative rules and the statutes. And then, of course, there's the ROC process. And then just as you may feel comfortable with the title process, a ball gets dropped. And maybe you guys have experienced this by, say, having an ROC returned. And then you feel like, oh, crap, I have to start all over again with this process. And again, since we're using this metaphor of juggling, what if you wanted to add more balls to that mix? Say, for instance, you're going to be updating by the appurtenance. Well, you know, with appurtenance, then there's probably maps, and then there's the mapping standards. And then you find that you've got to readjust that toss. So we don't want you as professionals and water users to become frustrated with this process and possibly either start throwing those balls or letting those balls drop. So for today's training, we decided that it would be beneficial to actually take a step back and review with you the basics of the title process. And what we plan to cover are the fundamentals of this process. We want to walk you through the conveyance of a water right. And then hopefully we can also provide you with helpful tips and useful tools that you can take with you and use when you're attempting to update ownership. So first, what we will cover are the fundamental topics. We'll first include the Utah Code, Section 73-1-10 and 73-1-11. And along with the code, we will be highlighting the administrative rules that go with those. We will actually take you to the division's database and walk you through a water right. We'll highlight those important elements that you should be aware of on that water right and what to look for when you're updating ownership. Dan is going to actually walk you through the report of water right conveyance, the purpose and the procedure, and then she will also talk about the maps and mapping standards. So again, before we continue, does everybody have handouts? If you don't have a handout, again, they're back there on the table, and it would probably be beneficial to take the time to get one now because you're going to be needing to refer to these through the training. So let's get started. So first, let's cover Section 73-1-10. And this actually covers how a water right is transferred. So it does state that a water right shall be transferred by deed in substantially the same manner as real estate. So basically, what it's saying is that to transfer ownership on a water right, you need to use a deed. Now, the deed can specifically recite the water right and convey it in its entirety, or the deed can convey a portion of that water right. Or a water right that is authorized to be used on a particular parcel of land can also be conveyed by the appurtenance. Now, there are the types of deeds that can transfer ownership are, one, the land deed. And most of you probably know these. I know it's probably basic stuff. But on a land deed, you will note that it only conveys a metes and bounds description. And there are no water rights specifically cited on that deed. So if that metes and bounds description has been established as the place of use for that water right, then it can be considered that that water right did convey by the appurtenance. Then the other type of deed is a water deed. Now, this deed specifically conveys the water right. And like we've mentioned, the water deeds can recite the water right in its entirety or for a portion. Now, we just have to caution you, if you use a water deed, by the execution and recording of that water deed, that can possibly separate the ownership of the water and the land. So then you may no longer have that unity in the ownership. Now, another way to transfer ownership of a water right is by an assignment. An assignment cannot be used, though, to transfer ownership of a perfected water right. It can only be used to transfer ownership on an approved application to appropriate, and that would include exchange applications, or unapproved applications to appropriate. Now, these forms are provided by the state engineer, and they are available on our website. Prior to 2014, assignments were not required to be recorded with the county recorder. And this notably did present a problem because there was not notification to the public of the ownership transfer of that water right. So in our statute, effective May 13th, 2014, it is now required that all assignments are to be recorded with the county recorder's office. And then just as recently as July 1st, 2017, it was added to our statute that a copy of that assignment, when it's been recorded, may be forwarded by the county recorder to the Division of Water Rights. And the division will treat it as a submission of a report of water right conveyance. If you do choose to use an assignment, it has to be for 100% of the water right. Okay, here's the next item, addendums. And we seem to get a lot of questions on addendums, and then sometimes there's confusion on addendums. What an addendum is an attachment to a deed, and it can act as a report of conveyance. Now, just remember that it's just an attachment to a deed. An assignment by itself cannot convey. It has to be attached to a deed. Oh, didn't I say that? Sorry, an addendum. I meant addendum. So, it is a form that has been approved by the legislature, and it either identifies that water right that's been transferred under that deed, or it states that no water rights are being transferred by the applicable deed. Its purpose is to create that dialogue between the seller and the buyer of the property, and that there is discussion about the water that's to be transferred or not transferred. Now, there are two types of addendums. There's an addendum to the land deed, and then there's an addendum to the water deed. And once again, these forms are available on our website. Now, the addendums are actually governed under our statute, the 73-1-10, but they're also referenced under the Real Estate Code, 57-3-109. State statute states that is effective as July 1st, an addendum attached to an applicable deed can act as a report of water right conveyance. So when an addendum is attached to a deed and it's been recorded with the county recorder can forward that deed and addendum to the state engineer's office, and it will take the place of the required report of water right conveyance. The addendum can be forwarded to us from the county recorder, either by email, by fax, or by mail. And we do have a specific email address that the county recorders have been given that they can use to send it directly to us. Now, if you do choose to use a deed and addendum, there are certain requirements that have been established under our rules. And if you want to refer to the rules, now or later, you can refer to 655-3-3. These requirements include that all grantors, as they appear on the deed, are to sign the addendum. Same thing with the grantees. All grantees that appear on that deed are to sign the addendum. And the addendum is to include the mailing address of the grantee. Now, also, the grantor on that deed and addendum is to be the owner as it's listed on the records of the Division of Water Rights. And then the form has to be completed as per the instructions on that form. If the division cannot update title with that deed and addendum that's been submitted, then the state engineer will provide written notice to that grantee of the reasons why we cannot update ownership. And if the ownership can be updated with the addendum, then the water right owner will then have to go through the report of water right conveyance process. So there's usually two notable reasons why a deed and addendum is sent back, and then you have to go through the ROC process. One is because not all of the owners, as they appear, it doesn't begin with all of the owners as it appears on our records. And then it has not been signed by all of the parties. Nor did they include the mailing address. That makes it really hard if they don't include the mailing address, because then we don't know who to contact. Okay, we just want to emphasize that a deed and addendum to act as a report of water right conveyance does have to come from the county recorder. You cannot walk into our office as a professional or a water user and ask that we update based on that deed and addendum. If that's the case, you will need to submit that along with an ROC and pay your $40 fee. Are there any questions so far on deeds, addendums? Most of you have that down by now, probably. Okay, we'll move on to county recorder. The county recorder is the office of official record for the conveyance of water rights. So only the true ownership of a water right can be found at the county recorders. Now, the deeds are to be recorded in both the county where the water is used and where the water is diverted. So if you have a water right that's used in one county and diverted from another county, you need to make sure that your deeds are recorded in both counties. I just want to state, this is one of the elementary reasons why a rock is returned, because sometimes the professional has failed to notice that it's been diverted and used in two different counties. Now, a recorded deed of a water right from the time of its recording in the county recorder's office constitute notice of its contents. And then as per our statute that became effective May 13th, 2014, the county recorder is to now keep a separate track index for conveyance documents that were recorded and specifically refer to the water. Now, as a side note, we just want to state that the Division of Water Rights does maintain a database of all water rights in Utah, including ownership of each water right. But we do not monitor the transactions or transfers at the county recorder's office. So you as the professionals are encouraged to do a complete search of the county recorder's records, because that, again, is where the true ownership of that water right is going to be found. Okay. Turn the time over to Dana.
Okay, so, oh wow, I am really loud anyway, so it doesn't help that I have to have a mic on me. Okay, so we talked about appurtenance. Sue talked about appurtenance earlier. And so what is the definition of appurtenance as applied to water rights? Because a lot of people ask me that. So let's just go over that for a minute. All water right is the property of the public until a right for its use has been properly established on a particular parcel of land, which we call the place of use. Okay, Chris talked about that earlier. Then the water right becomes appurtenant with that piece of property. So when a water right has been established, meaning either perfected or even approved or unperfected, for use upon a specific parcel of land, the water right can be considered appurtenant to that piece of property. Again, Chris talked about perfected, unperfected earlier. So when there's no water right number on the deed, the water right could be conveyed by appurtenance, but a map will be required depicting the place of use on the water right, overlain by the metes and bounds description in the deed. Okay, so now we've talked about appurtenance. Now, how is water right appurtenant to land? Now here are some exceptions to that rule, and it is outlined in our statute under 73-111, if you want to look at that now or whenever. But it reads, a water right appurtenant to land shall pass to the grantee of the land unless the grantor, okay, reserves the water right or any part of the water right in the land conveyance document. So if you're reserving a water right, it has to be clear as to the reservation language. Some people think that if they don't list the water right, that it doesn't go with the land. It does go with the land, so make sure that you have that reservation language. Now, an example of this part of the statute would be if the deed read, reserves all water right. That's pretty basic, reserves all water right. Or reserves 5 acre-feet of water right number 354805. You have to have a specific water right number if you're going to reserve some of that. So don't leave it up for interpretation. You know, if you have to give us a call, do, but you do have to have that reservation language in there. Or 2, you convey a part of the water right in the land conveyance document. So if you convey a portion of the water right, it will be assumed by us that the remainder of the water right is reserved. So an example of this statute would be, say you have a 5 acre-foot water right, and your deed reads conveying 2 acre-feet of water from water right number 576784. Again, you have to specify the water right number. So you might not have the reservation language in there, but since you only conveyed 2 acre-feet, the 3 acre-feet remaining is reserved. So you just have to be aware of that. It won't go with the land, even if the land, the 100% of the land is listed on there. If you just give a portion of that water right, the rest will be reserved. But you do have to be specific as to the water right number. Or conveys the water right in a separate conveyance document prior to or contemporaneously with the execution of the land conveyance document. So if a deed conveying the water right is recorded prior to that land deed, or even at the same time, the water will not go with the land deed and will be severed. Now, you may no longer have unity in title to water and land. Now, sometimes people like to do a warranty deed on the land and then do a quick claim deed on the water. You still have unity in land because you're deeding it to the same owner. But if you deed that water right off before to somebody else and then do the land deed, it has been severed from that land. So just remember that. Okay, so land conveyance documents may expressly reserve the associated water rights to the grantor or the seller. So let's for a minute talk about trust deeds. I know you probably, if you're in the title company, you probably deal with trust deeds. Just so you know, if your land is encumbered under that trust deed, and this happens a lot, the water right is also encumbered under that trust deed. Okay? You cannot sell the water right unless it is no longer encumbered under that trust deed. A lot of people think I'm going into financial straits, they're going to take my house, the bank, I'm going to hurry up and sell off the water rights. What happens, they come in, the people come in that they sold it to, we update, and then the bank comes back and says, we've had it, here's the trust deed. So just remember that it is encumbered under that trust deed. Just again, make sure you're clear. Just don't leave it up to interpretation. Okay, so have you ever run into a document that the county recorders updated their records, but the division wouldn't accept? Maybe a divorce decree, a decree of distribution, or an affidavit of heirship, something like that. Now, in relation to water right conveyed by appurtenance, under Utah Code 73-111, it reads, if a county recorder records a document that conveys a water right appurtenant to land and relies on the document to maintain a track index, the state engineer shall rely on the document as an effective conveyance of a water right appurtenant to land. So this statute was implemented in 2011, and what this means is that there could be a document that the county recorder accepted and updated the records. Now, if this is a case, we will also rely on that document to update our records. But as per our rules, R655-3-4.5, the requirements to use this statute are: 1, you have to have unity in title. You will need to show us unity with the owner on the water right record to the landowner on the deed, okay, or the document. A copy of the track index, or abstract as some of the county recorders like to call them. This shows a true chain of title to each tract or parcel of land. It's a summary of transactions, but please show us the chain by highlighting each chain associated with that parcel. And you'll need an affidavit endorsed by the professional affirming that the water right has not been severed from the land but remains appurtenant to the property. Do I have any questions so far? We're all okay. Okay, May 4th, 1998. I'm not going to go into this date extensively. I usually do, and I don't want to do that this time. I want you just to remember this date. The statute under 73-111, it mentions this date. And it's one of our biggest confusions when updating water right ownership is with this date. So why is this date important? Just remember this date, because on May 4th, 1998, our statute changed to provide that not only can perfected water rights be conveyed by appurtenance, but also unperfected or approved water rights can be conveyed by appurtenance. Okay, and Chris again talked about the perfected and approved unperfected water rights. So prior to May 4th, 1998, any deed prior to that date, only perfected water rights can be conveyed by appurtenance. Okay, after May 4th, 1998, perfected and approved can be conveyed by appurtenance. So just remember, the key words here are not just the date, but the type of water right. So you need to ask yourself, do you know the difference between a perfected water right versus an unperfected water right? Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll turn the time over to Sue, and she's going to show you some key things to look at in our database. Do you want to sit here? Let me just... Am I on?
Okay, so as we've mentioned several times through this training, it's highly important that you do a thorough search of the county recorder's records, but it's equally important that you do a search of the state engineer's records for each water right that you want to update ownership on. And this is important because there are key elements that you need to know before you update ownership. So what we want to do is just walk you through the water right detail page and other elements to it to highlight certain elements on that page that you will need to know when you're looking at updating ownership. So first of all, you will want to go to our website. If no one's ever used our website before, it is at www.waterrights.utah.
Paul, we don't have the water rights page up there. Is there a problem? Sorry.
You're in that extended view.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay.
So again, you will want to go to www.waterrights.utah.gov. You will now be at our main page. On our main page, you will want to click on Search, and then Water Right Number. Once you've got that water right number that you're wanting to update ownership on. And so for today's training purposes, we're going to put in 05-480. And then you will hit Submit Query. Now, right now, this is taking you to our old database page. For training purposes today, I'm going to take you to our new database page because eventually we are going to transition to that page, and that's what you will be using in the future. So up here it says View New Water Right Web Page Design. We'll take you there. And we actually like this design. It's easier to read. So the first thing that you're going to look at on this water right detail page is the owner. That's where you start. Who is the owner of record? Remember, when you are updating ownership, that's who you start with, is the owner as it's shown on the state engineer's records. Now, again, we have to continually keep noting this. This isn't necessarily the true ownership of this water right. You still need to do that thorough search at the county recorders to find the true ownership. There could be other deeds out there that could possibly affect that owner that it is showing. Sometimes we'll have water rights that still show in the original owner's name, and that water right dates clear back to the late 1800s. Ownership has never been updated on it. So it's always good to go and look to see who that current owner is. The next thing is you scroll down and under General. Under General, it's highlighted, and Chris pointed this out on his presentation. There are three important items that you need to always look at when you're reviewing the water right. The first is the type of right, as Dana mentioned. The second is the status, and the third is the source. Now, on this water right, the first clue is it tells us what type of right it is. In this situation, it started as an application to appropriate. The next is the status. It's showing us certificated. So this tells us that it actually went through an application process, and it was complete, and now a certificate was issued on that water right. And then the source of the info is that certificate itself. The secondary elements under General are the source, which this tells us the source is an underground water well, and then also the county where that water right is located. Then we come down to dates. As Dana mentioned, not only is it the type of right, the source and the status, it's also the dates that are important. So here it shows us the filing date. That's when that application was originally filed. But we do know that this water right was certificated. So we look for the certificate date, which you're seeing right here. This is the date that that water became pertinent to that parcel or that approved place of use. That is the date that it perfected this water right. Then we will scroll down and show you next point of diversion. Point of diversion actually shows where that source is. In this case, again, it's an underground water well, so it gives us the meets and bounds description of where that well is located. And then below that, you will see water uses. For land conveyances, And when you're updating by appurtenance, this is what you're going to be looking at, the water uses. Water uses are important because it defines the beneficial use and also the place or places of use. And when you're updating by appurtenance, remember, it's the place of use where that water is used, not the point of diversion. We so many times get rocks that are submitted where people are trying to update based on where that point of diversion is. Our law requires that it has to be where the place of use is. Sometimes they are located in the same place, but sometimes they're not. So on this water right, we look at it. It shows us the uses here as being irrigation for 1.38 acres. There's stock watering for the 4 equivalent livestock units, and then also 1 domestic. It shows us the place of use in section township and range. Here it's 35, 26 south, 22 east, and it just shows us also the 40-acre tract it's located in. So it shows us where that 1.3 acres of irrigation and the rest of those uses are located. If there is stock, it also will show you an additional place of use for that livestock. Does anybody have any questions so far about that part of the database? Okay, again, we just want to emphasize when you're trying to update by the appurtenance, it is the place of use, not the point of diversion. The other item we want to point out here is if irrigation is identified as a use on that water right, but your parcel may not encompass that total amount of acreage, then you may not receive 100% of that water right. So in other words, if we look at this water right is for 1.38 acres of irrigation. Say your parcel is only for 1 acre. You're still lacking some acreage there, so you may not be able to update for 100% of that water right. You have to have at least that amount. The most common reasons why a rock is returned is because, one, again, the parcel that's identified throughout the chain of title is not where the place of use is, and the parcel does not include the total amount of acreage that's defined under those uses. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take you to the map viewer. You will want to use the map viewer that's next to the water uses. And what this map view will give you a base map. It does identify the icon for the point of diversion and also shows the place of use of that within that 40-acre tract. So if you come over here, and these are just some nifty little tools. You may have used this, you may not, but these are some nifty little tools that we use all the time. You will want to first click on layers. What you can do is then pull up the PLSS system. It will then show you your section, your township and range, and then it shows those 40-acre tracts. I can scroll in a little more here. And then if the county has put those parcels online, you can click on parcels and your parcels will come up. So you can see the identifying parcels there. You know, if you're also looking for other water rights within that 40-acre tract, you can click on points of diversion. It will pull up other water rights that are within that area. But for this purpose, we're just looking at the one water right, which is the 05480. Now, the next icon here is base map. You can use, right now we're in the Esri base map. You can also click and go to Google. Sometimes Google has a lot clearer image. Then Also, these maps will take you clear back to the 1990s. This is useful if you're looking to see if that water right's showing irrigation. You can go back to the 1990s and see if possibly there was irrigation occurring on that parcel, or even possibly if there was a house that was done back in the 1990s. The next thing is the search button. This is a great little tool because, say for instance, you have a water right number, but you don't know where the location of that water right number is. You can come here and you can search here by the water right number. You can enter the change number. If you just have an approved change or an unapproved change, you can type in the change number, click on that, and it will pull up where the location is of that change, exchange, so on and so forth. Or you can also do a search for the address. You can do a search for the county parcel. So let's just, on training purposes, let's type in a county parcel on this one. We know the county parcel number, and we also have an idea as to, it's easier to use this. We also have an idea as to, we know what county it's in. So then we will want to click on search. It's found that parcel, we zoom to that parcel. It now has taken us directly to that parcel. So then we'll go over to the tools here on the side. The tools here, this location lookup tool is something that you might want to get in the habit of using, because if you're looking to see if your deeds need to be recorded in 2 counties, this will help you identify what counties for the point of diversion and the place of use. So let's say, for instance, this water right particularly, we know that this is the place of use for that water right. But we also know, given that where this icon is, this is where the point of diversion is. So if I click on location lookup and I click on, I can click here where this icon is, and it will tell me the point of diversion is in San Juan County. So I know I need to record my deed in San Juan County. Then up here on the parcel, I can click on that. Oh, the parcel is in Grand County. So then I know that I need to record my deed in both counties. It's a great little tool. You can use this anytime. It's wonderful. We love it. The other tool that you can use is the measure. So remember we talked about how this water right was, I need to get out of here. This water right was for 1.38 acres. Well, I'm not really quite sure how many acres my parcel is. I can actually use this feature, and this feature will allow you to measure the area, or you can measure the distance. So here I can click on measure the area, and then I can actually take my little pointer here and measure out this area. And it tells me approximately 1.1 acre is what my parcel is. The other wonderful thing is, say for instance you have a water right that may be a point to point. This is great to measure the distance if you have a point to point. You can go from one point to another point. It will measure in feet, kilometers, meters, yards, nautical miles, so on and so forth. The same thing with the area. It will measure and give it in acres, square miles, square yards, square feet, square meters, so on and so forth. So those are nifty little tools that you can use. The other tools, the annotations, I'm not going to go into detail on this because Dana is actually going to cover this more in detail when she does maps. And then print, you can. Now, if you want to print, say this preview of this parcel, you can go in here and you've got all these different print options and then hit print. So there's actually one other item I'd like to show you on the map viewer. I'm going to quickly switch water right numbers here. Why do I do that? Okay. Okay, now, say we know we're going to try and update ownership on this water right. Again, we go through the owners, we go through the general here, the type of right, the source, the status. In this case, this was an application to appropriate. The status is a water user claim, but my key is it was published in a proposed determination. This means it went through the adjudication process. When there was an adjudication done, the clue is then there's probably hydrographic survey maps. We went out there and mapped the area. We mapped where the place of use is for these water rights. So if you're struggling as to knowing where the place of use is, you can refer to those hydrographic survey maps. I'm going to show you here that you can go down to water uses, and again, it will take you to the map viewer. You can go to layers, click on our PLSS, click on our parcels. We're scrolling in a little bit here. You can now click on show more layers. And under showing more layers, I can go in and see, oh, is there a hydrographic survey map for this water right? Because I know it was published in a proposed determination. I can click on this and hit OK, and it brings up the hydrographic survey map from that adjudication. Now I can actually enhance that or decrease. So I can see it's the parcel overlaying on top of that hydrographic survey map. So that tells me where that place of use is for that water right. And if you have this parcel and you're trying to update, you're like, great, I can do this. I know where the place of use is. I can keep the rhythm of that title process and it'll go through. Okay, so we're going to go back to the water right that we were initially working on. And what we want to take you to now is scan documents. Now, generally, most people just stop at the database page, the water right detail page, and they don't bother to go into the scan documents. And we just have to encourage you, you need to do that. Because again, everything on this database page, if you read the warning, it doesn't necessarily make claims to the accuracy. So you want to take this information that you see on that page and verify it against the hard copy that's in our files. And all of those hard copies are found under Scan Documents. We scan every document or any action that's taken to that file, and it's made available to the public. So if I click on Scan Documents here, I can see everything that's happened and occurred on this water right is in Scan Documents. Now I can actually search by the date, I can search by description, or I can search by comment. We're going to go back to description. So we have gathered all of our information on this water right. We know that this water right is an application to appropriate and that it was certificated. We also know the date that it was certificated. We know where the place of use is and for what the uses are. We've gotten that all from that water right detail page. So what I need to look for then is I need to look for that certificate. That certificate is the proof. It verifies that information that's on that water right detail page. So if I click on that certificate, it will bring up that certificate, and then I need to verify those uses and that place of use on that certificate. Because sometimes what we have found is people just take face value, it's on the database. When it comes into us, Dan and I review it, and we found that, oh, they just went by the database. What's actually on this underground water claim shows a completely different place of use. So then we end up sending back the ROC. That may have happened to you. I don't know, but I know it does happen. So we just want to encourage that you go into scan documents and verify your information that you have found on that water right detailed page. Now also on the on this particular water right, we know there was a certificate. We also know that as part of that process, there probably was proof that was submitted, and there's a proof map. So we can go through and look for a proof map. This proof map does identify where the uses are and where that place of use is for that water right. So that helps us if we're trying to update by the appurtenance, because we need to know where that place of use is. Again, we're not doing it by point of diversion, we are doing it by place of use. So we would click on that proof map, we would take that proof map, it shows us where the acreage is, where that house is, and we would compare that to with what we have on our parcel. And one last item, going through the water right detail and the scanned documents, we want to specifically state that it's not just as important to look at the perfected document and any maps, but also any conveyance documents that have been submitted to our office, because some of these ROCs that have been received, we have updated the ownership on probably, and then we've received a ROC with those very same deeds to update ownership again, and we can't because we've already used those deeds once to update ownership. Or sometimes, if you've gone through and looked at all of those ROCs and any other conveyance documents on our files, you'll find that we are missing something, and that does need to be submitted. Either way, it could impact the ownership that's showing on our records. Okay, so at this point in time, I think that we are going to take a slight break, 10-minute break, and then
Okay with the 10-minute break?
so that at least you guys can stretch your legs and watch Dana juggle.
Okay, I think we are ready to get started. Okay, so now we're going to go over what we call a report of conveyance. Let's say you've looked through our database, you've compiled all your deeds and your maps and your paperwork, and you are ready to complete a report of conveyance. Also known, you'll hear us say ROC or ROC. It's all the same. I go back and forth. Report of conveyance, ROC, ROC. So you'll hear us commonly refer it to that. Now, as per our statute under 655-3-4, it describes the content of a report of conveyance. So what is a report of conveyance? We've said it a lot of times during this training. And this form is required by the state engineer, okay? It serves as an abstract of deeds being submitted. We don't monitor any transfers of water rights, okay? So our records aren't always updated. We rely on you, the water owner, to file a report of water right conveyance. This form notifies us, the division, when ownership transfers. So thus the purpose of an ROC is to notify the division of the true ownership of a water right. And it provides a story for us with the report of conveyance. And we've talked about how addendums and assignments could be used as a report of conveyance when the county recorder submits those to us. The report of conveyance form could be used for all the conveyances, including those addendums and assignments, okay, if submitted by the water user or professional. So note, you can only submit one report of conveyance per water right. Okay, also if you have 2 owners on the water right and you're trying to update, you will need to file a separate report of conveyance per owner. Okay, the 100% form can be used if there are several owners on the water right and you are updating 100% of one of those owners' interest. Okay, so we're going to be completing a report of conveyance on our website. So to help you understand the ROC and how it works, and a lot of you already know, but you're going to help me fill out this report of conveyance. So in your packet, there is a blank 100% report of conveyance. So look for that 100% report of conveyance. Attached to that report of conveyance are deeds and maps, okay? So I'm going to have you help me fill out this report of conveyance. You will have, I will be showing you how to complete the ROC online, while you will be filling out the form that was already printed out from our website, which is that form in your packet.
Sorry, I just have one question on, can you use the 100% form if there's several owners under undivided interest?
If it's an undivided interest, it's kind of hard, depending on, you can do a water right deed if it's an undivided interest for one owner. There'll just be an undivided interest for the one owner. Do I need to repeat that question? She was asking if there are several owners on the file, they have an undivided interest, can you deed one of those owners' interests with the 100% form, right? And I said, yes, you can. Again, you can deed, if you're deeding 100% of that interest, you can use the 100% form, okay? Okay, so let's go to the online form. And again, you go to www.waterrights.utah.gov. And under Programs, you'd hit Water Rights. And then you'd go to the Forms. I ought to use the mouse. Okay, you go scroll down under Ownership Applications is the Report of Conveyance 100% form. Okay, so here's the first thing that you would see are the instructions or the steps you would take, which you would read before hitting this button. I have read and understand these instructions, okay? Once you hit that, I know that as soon as you read those steps and you hit the button, you probably forget what you read. I know I would. However, at the top here are those instructions again that you can refer to. But I will also go over these steps as we fill out the form. So the first thing you have on here is the water right number. We're going to assume at this point in time that you have already found the water right number associated with your parcel on the deed. Okay, so we're going to do water right number 43-10529, and you can put that on your form that you have. In the case of the online, you would hit this button, Get Water Right Info, and it will show you any pending change applications associated with this water right, and you do need to know that. So in this case, and for the purpose of our training, there is no change application on this water right. Okay, so you've got the Section A Conveyance Summary number 1. The first question on here, it says, if no water right number is mentioned on the deed, is a map attached? So why don't you tell me, is there a water right number mentioned on that first deed? Shout it out. We're all friends here. No. Okay, so you do have to attach a map. So you would hit, yes, I have a map attached. Okay, what is the deed type? Thank you. Okay, the date signed. Okay, what year? Okay. And October 2nd, right? Okay, what about the date recorded? Excuse me. Of the same year? I know this might get redundant, but this information is important to be on the report of conveyance. Was it October 3rd that it was recorded? Okay, is there a book number? What is the book number? A 235, is that what it was? It's a bad, and you're sometimes, you're going to have to guess for us or try, when you go to the county recorder's office, make sure you try to get a clearer image of that. These older deeds are hard, so you just have to try to look at it, and our copies might be a little off too. Excuse me, the page number. Okay. Now, just a side note, well, I'll describe that in the second conveyance because it doesn't do it on this one. Okay, what about the entry number? 308723. Thank you. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to talk about these dates, why this is important to be on the report of conveyance. There's two reasons why we want this information on the report of conveyance. One, it refers to the deed that you have that you're going to submit with the report of conveyance. So it helps us refer that to that deed. Two, it shows us it's in chronological order. So you're starting with the earliest deed. Okay? The earliest deed is what you start with. Should be the owner of record like it has on the grantor. You notice it's automatically entered. That is the owner of record on the water right. Okay, so you're starting with this owner, and it needs to be in chronological order. Okay, the earliest deed first. Okay. So the grantee is who? We have to have it exactly as the deed states. So who is the grantee on this water right? Now, I'm going to put joint tenants. If this was the owner that you're trying to update, and it shows on the deed that they're joint tenants, that's important to us. If it goes on the water rights, then it's easier to sever the joint tenancy, which Sue will talk about later how to do that. But you kind of want that on there if it's an owner you're trying to update. In this case, it doesn't need to be on there, sorry. Now, the mailing address and the email address, since there is more than one deed, you're showing me a chain of title. This isn't the owner that you're trying to update, so we don't need the mailing address or the email address for this one. Okay, under special conditions, this can be used to clarify or explain or put the parcel number, total amount conveyed on a portion, specifics as what you're trying to do. If you're following different chains or parcels, let us know what you're doing. Like we said, the ROC does tell a story, so be clear as to what you're trying to do, because sometimes when we're trying to interpret what you're doing or assuming, and we all know what assume means, if we're trying to assume what you're trying to do, it's not going to work, okay? We all don't think the exact same. So please be clear as to what you're doing. So this button down here where it says additional conveyance is to be used if you have more than one deed or conveyance. Now you have the printed form and it has 3 conveyance summaries. The online form has this button to enter additional deeds. So it pulls up a conveyance summary number 2. Again, let's go with if no water right number is mentioned on this deed, is a map submitted? Is there a water right number on the second deed? No, so you will have to submit a map. What's the deed type? Okay. What about date signed? April 10th. You say April 10th? Okay. What about the date recorded? Is it April again? May. Oh, May. Okay. Does everybody see those dates on those deeds? Do you know where those dates are? Okay. And just so you know, the book and the page number, sometimes they're not always on the deed, but the entry number will most likely always be on the deed. And this entry number in the book and page are the county recorder's record keeping. It is their way of keeping track of that deed and tie it to land or water rights. So that's why those up there, that is the county recorder's record keeping. And we need that because that is the official office of record, right? We cannot update without that information. Okay, so is there a book and page on this one? Yeah. What is the book number? 8713. Now, just so you know, on this, there's a little glitch in our system. If you were to hit the tab button, it would take you back up to this first conveyance. Just so to note that, because I've done that so many dang times. So don't do that. You'll have to use your pointer. Okay, what is the page number? 374. Okay, and the entry number? 473051. Did I do that right? 473051. Okay, so again, as you note, it already oh my goodness, it already enters, sorry, I can't speak today. It already enters the grantee where the grantor is. So the grantee of the previous conveyance summary is now the grantor. That's how these deeds have to go. You're going in chronological order again. Okay, so who is the grantee on this deed? Thank you. Whoops. Okay, do we need a mailing address? Yes. Okay, one of you said no, one of you said yes. There's another conveyance document. Thank you. There is another conveyance document, so you don't need the mailing address or the email address, because you don't need that for each summary. You just need it on the final owner you're trying to update. So we'll go ahead and leave those blank. Special conditions, what could we put on the special conditions on this deed?
Tenancy went to himself.
You could reference the divorce decree telling us there's a divorce. What about the parcel number? Sometimes when there are several parcels on your deeds, we need that referenced. Now, we also want to highlight it on the deed because we need to know what's pertinent. Some people will give us several parcels and not highlight one of them and expect us to find that parcel on there. We don't want to have to plot out every single parcel. That would take us forever. So we need you to highlight the parcel, but it's also good to put it on the report of conveyance, maybe, or even reference the divorce decree, or any information that will help us to determine, something about this water right that maybe we're not knowing or guessing, okay? So we'll go ahead. Oh, we have a question.
So if they signed on 2 different dates, which date would you use?
If they signed on 2 different dates,
Like
is
Michael
there...
signed on a different date from Becky.
Oh, well, you could probably just put the first one. It wouldn't matter.
So it doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as you're putting a signed date. Okay, so we can reference that deed to that, report of conveyance to that deed. Okay, so let's just put that the parcel... Okay, so there still is one more conveyance summary. So, and again, you have 3 conveyance summaries on your report of conveyance, so you're filling out this last one. Conveyance number summary number 3. Is there a water right number mentioned on this last deed? Okay, yes, so you don't need a map for this deed. What is the deed type? Warranty deed. Now that's unusual usually for a water deed, but okay, date signed. 2008, okay. And date recorded. Okay. Do they have a book and page number? Does someone see a page number?
They don't do book and page anymore. They're Duchesne County strictly entry number now.
There you go. So did you hear her? She said Duchesne County now is just strictly entry number. And most of the counties are mostly just entry number now. The older deeds will have a book and page number, but they'll always have an entry number. So what is the entry number for this?
961.
Thank you. Okay, again, as we see, Michael S. Leflore, who was the grantee on the previous summary, is now the grantor. So who is the grantee? Okay, now do we put a mailing address? Anybody want to give me their mailing address and I'll put it on here? Just kidding. So make sure you have the entire address. You have the mailing address, the city, the zip code. Okay, so we have all that information to enter it in our database. We'll just make up one here. Okay, email address. If the email address is used, this is kind of new on our form, it's only used if you want to get the update through email. We're not going to email you anything else. It's just for the update of the water right. Because you'll receive a letter through the mail, or if you want to receive it through email, you would put your email there. So let's just say this guy wants to receive it through email. Don't even try this email. I don't know if it works, but okay, special conditions. Let's just say the water right number is listed on the deed. Why would you put this on there? I mean, it's kind of evidence that it's on there, right? I did have a situation recently. You said no, yeah. Did someone? Where the water right number was on there, but neither I nor the professional saw it. And then after we kind of went through some of the deeds, because the deeds had several parcels, there was actually a water right number on there. So if you see it and we don't, you want to make sure that, okay, we got to look for it because you just said there's a water right number on there. So I'm going to look for that on that deed. If it's several pages long, we might not see it right off. So I think it's important for you to give us any kind of information. Okay, so we're done with this report of conveyance. And now we go to Section B, certification. Now, this report of conveyance can only be completed by a signed professional. Can anybody tell me why?
The water right number was not listed on the first two deeds.
Okay, so Sonia answered because the water right number was not listed on the first two deeds. That's correct. If you're going by appurtenance to the land, then you need a professional. So the professionals that the Division of Water Rights fills can update by appurtenance and determine if a water right is appurtenant are, let's go down to for licensed professional only. And just so you know, you don't have to fill out the top if you're the professional. We have a lot of professionals fill that out, and you don't need to do that. But you do need to do under for licensed professional only. So here are the professionals that can update ownership by appurtenance. A professional engineer, an attorney, a land surveyor, and a title insurance agent. Those are the only ones that can update by appurtenance. Okay, so we'll do an attorney, and we'll just put someone that's in the room. Do you think I can get his license number? No, I'm just going to make up one now. Whoops. Ah. Okay, we'll choose today's date, phone number. We'll just make up an address so you won't really get this professional. Whoops. Now, why would this be important to have this information on the report of conveyance? Why do we need the phone number and the address of the professional? There you go. Yeah, that's exactly right. Is that what you were going to say, Dorley? Yeah. Because we either can call you or we're going to send it back. And, you know, we always say every 1 out of 3 we send back, which is terrible. That's why we're having these trainings, so we don't send them back any longer. We don't like to do that, honestly. But we did notice that calling, unless it's something that's easy, we won't call. We'll just send it back. It's just easier for us because then it's on your desk. We used to call, and then it would sit on our desk and pile up. And we'd have all these files just sitting there waiting for the professional to get back with us. We no longer do that. We most of the time send it back. And just an FYI, please do not send it back by email. Because we get so many emails already, and we won't accept it. You need to send it back by snail mail. All of the information we sent you, not just the information we asked for. Okay? Okay, so now you're ready to generate the official form, and it will look just like the form you have in front of you. And I just want to note down here where the professional has signed or going to sign after you print it out, the certification by the professional does state the professional was retained by an owner of the water right to prepare or supervise the preparation of the report of conveyance, that the report is true and accurate to the best of the preparer's knowledge, that an appropriate search of county recorder records has been made, and that the attached documents evidence the ownership interest of the grantee. So now that you have the form and it is completed, and you have copies of the deeds to attach to the ROC, you will now need to do a map, okay? Now, I know you have a map in that packet. I don't want you to look at it just quite yet. So since we need to do maps, we're going to see if we can. Okay. We're going to go over our mapping standards at this point. You all have the mapping standards in your packet. I want you to pull them out. You can go over with me as I go over these mapping standards. This is required by our statute to have a map if it's being conveyed by a pertinence. Okay? And everything that we're going to tell you to put on the map, it really is important to identify where that water right, place of use, overlain by the metes and bounds description in your deed. It's really important to have that. Okay. So the map is a graphical depiction of the water right place of use, again, overlain by the metes and bounds description on the property conveyed in your land deed. Okay. The maps are to include appropriate public land survey lines and labeled with a section, township, and range. You at least need one section corner location, and it needs to be shown on the map and labeled as such. Don't just put a dot and we're supposed to guess what that section corner is. Okay, we need a water right number, and this is because, believe it or not, sometimes maps get separated from the report of conveyance, and it is helpful to have that on there so we can put that back with the report of conveyance. I don't know why that happens, but it has happened. We need a north arrow, a scale. Now, maps are to include and depict the entire parcel described as conveyed on the land deed. Okay, so this is on your land deed. You're plotting it out. This is what plotted out is in the yellow. Okay, actual acreage of the parcel. And as we know, Sue talked about earlier, this is important because then it tells us, is this a portion? Is this 100% of this water right? It also tells you, okay, this is a portion or this is 100% of the water right. So it helps both of us. Okay, so here is the place of use that is listed, was listed on the water right. Would they get 100% of the water right? It's really quite obvious, isn't it? The red is the place of use. Their parcel is a yellow. So maps are to show any reservations from the property. Now, including property described as a language of less than accepting. You need to make sure that is on the map. We have had times where the less than accepting is part of the place of use, and we have updated not having that less than accepting, and it's come back on us. So we have to have that on our maps, where that less than accepting is located. Okay, map should include a legend containing an identifier for the deed mapped, parcel numbers, lot numbers, any other information needed to connect the map to the deed in a clear and consistent manner. Okay, it shows us a legend. So it tells us, okay, the parcel number, the deed that is associated with that parcel, the place of use in red, you know, the less than accepting. Because sometimes when there's not a legend, we cannot tell which is the place of use versus what you think is the place of use versus what the parcel is, or the less than accepting versus your parcel. So the accuracy and the completeness of the maps are the responsibility of the professional preparing the report of conveyance. Sometimes it'll be sent back for additional information on these maps. This is required by our statutes, so please, you know, look at our mapping standards and try to give us as much information as you can. Oh, and if the description on the deed is different in each deed, you will need a map for every deed that the description is different. So I want you to look at those first two deeds for that 100%. Is that the meets and bounds description on that deed, are they identical? I'll just answer it for you for the purpose of time. Yes, they are identical. So you would just need one map for this report of conveyance because the deeds are identical to the parcel. Did you have a question, Dorley? Oh, okay. Okay. Now let's look at this map. All right. What is wrong with this map? It is a proof map that is already on our files. Some people pull these maps because they're on our file and they think, oh, this works. But how do we know where your parcel is located? Just so you know, we already have these maps. I have people call me and say, well, you have the map on the file. The map that I need is the parcel that's being shown, the meets and bounds description on that deed. That's the map I need. You can submit this map to show us where the place of use is located, but I need a map of the parcel that's being conveyed on your deed. Okay? I mean, you know, it's not, we already have this map, and people always think that they'll just pull it off our files, but it really is the parcel on that map, on your deed. Okay, as this cartoon says, that's it. A parcel on the paper. Where is the acreage? Water right number, section, corner, place of use, north arrow. This is not an acceptable map. We get these all the time. It just does not tell us anything. We do. We get these all the time. And yeah, they probably plotted it out by deed plotter or something. And if you are, that's fine too, but we do need identifying qualities on this map. Okay? Okay, this is from our web page. And people will submit a lot of maps showing us a ton of parcels. Now, we can't guess which parcel is on your deed. We don't have a clue. Okay, you need to highlight the parcel. Okay, believe it or not, we do get maps like this. And what about a section corner or the water right number or the place of use? Again, we don't want to guess. Nothing about this map tells us where the place of use is located or the parcel. It just gives us our maps that we already have. Again, here's our map. And we do get a lot of these too. Now, it does show us where the point of diversion is located, but we can pull that up ourselves. we need where that parcel is on your deed. Just need to remember that. We need the parcel is on the deed. Okay, so this is the map, and you can look at it in your packet. This is the map the professional submitted for this report of conveyance that you have for the 100%. Okay, it doesn't have, it might not have some of the qualities. It doesn't have a water right number. And I would advise you put a water right number on there because, again, it does get separated from the RLC on some occasions. So you want to make sure the water right number is on there. Again, it is important that identifying elements of the water right are on the map. Okay, so now you're ready to print out, submit this report of conveyance, this 100% report of conveyance with all the deeds and the map. And of course, you all know there's associated fee, $40 filing fee per ROC. Make sure that you sign as a professional Section B of the report of conveyance. Now that you have the 100% form down, you all know how to complete those, and you're ready to complete a portion report of conveyance, right? Okay, I want you to, in your packet, get out the portion form. And it's going to look a little different than some of you are used to. You'll see it looks like this. If you were familiar with our form, you will note that this form in the packet is different. Sue and I have discovered that there's some problems with the portion form. When there are different chains and the new owner is receiving several portions, which add up, we are not getting the total on the last conveyance. So it's confusing as to what's being conveyed. So we are bringing back the first page. If you have done water rights for a long time, we used to have this first page on the portion form. We are bringing it back because it does give us a tally of what was conveyed on that portion. Some people are really good. Some professionals will tell us on that last conveyance what was the tally of the portion conveyed, but we don't have a place for that. So we've discovered, okay, our predecessors were correct into keeping that first page on that portion form. But for training purposes, we are going to fill out the summary portion of that portion form, which is a second page. Then you would complete the first page after you've got the summary page completed. So if you look at the second page, that's the summary we're going to be using. And right now, we do not have that first page anywhere anyway on our website right now. We will eventually, but it's not on the priority list yet of our ITT guys. So look for that. You'll just have to fill out it on the hard copy. Okay, again, here's the instructions. And oh, by the way, we have put these instructions or these steps in your packet so you can have them for future use. Okay, for training purposes, we are just going to say you have searched our database again. You have come up with a water right number that is tied to your parcel of land, which is 55-2066. You can put that on your report of conveyance portion form. We'll try to go through this a little quicker at the beginning until we get to the part where the portion is different from the 100%. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, there are pending change applications. It would tell you here if there's a pending change application. That is important on the portion form. Okay, you'll want to note the pending change application if it's a portion. And I'll show you in just a minute. Okay, if no water right number is mentioned on deed, is a map attached? Is there a water right number mentioned on the deed? Yes, there is? No. No? Okay, so yes, you meant yes, you're going to submit a map. Right? Oh, also note that on your deed, sometimes people think if they say all water rights go with this property, people think, okay, then I don't need a map because it's saying all water rights. You have to specifically put a water right number on there, okay? Otherwise, it's going by appurtenance. So if there's no water right number on there, it's going by appurtenance to the land. Just as a side note. Okay, deed type. Okay, date signed, we'll try to, what is the date signed? Okay. Date recorded, February again. The 4th. Okay, is there a book number? Page number? This is a newer deed, so entry number. 9428. Okay. And you don't have to put the 2016 if you don't want to. If you do, great. Okay, so did you hear that? In Utah County, you do have to put that. You have to put the entry number and the year. Is that right, Candida? Okay, so that's a good thing. I'm glad you said that. So you want to make sure you put, is it 2016, right? And again, it starts, the grantor starts with Bruce Max Hogard and Terry Hogard. Is that the person on your deed? Is that the grantor on your deed? Again, it's in chronological order. You're starting with the owner on our record. So now, here is the difference, the portion. Okay? These are, as Chris talked earlier, these are the beneficial uses of most water rights, okay? You're identifying what uses are conveyed through your deed. Now, Sue has showed you how to look up the beneficial uses of the water right. Just note, it's not the beneficial uses of what they're going to use it for. It's the beneficial uses on our water right. Okay, so just note that. So in this case, the professional, and I want you to note over here from pending change applications, remember, the change application could be different than the water right. The uses could have changed. You're going to have to put the uses, if there is a change application, you're going to have to tell us what uses are being conveyed through the change application also. So in this case, there is no change application, and the first deed is conveying 100% of this water right. So it's worth 14.46 acres. It's just irrigation. And the diversion limit, now this is based on the duty that Chris talked about earlier, is 57.84 acre feet. Okay, everybody. Special conditions. Now, you know, you can put anything here. It's always good on portion forms to give us any kind of information. Why is this 100%? Or C maps or whatever. Whatever you think will help us, so we don't send it back to you. Okay, the grantee is exactly shown on the deed, who is what? Okay, the acre feet, you'll either, that is the duty that Chris talked about earlier. So she's asking, where did we get the acre feet? That is the duty that was based on the land that's being conveyed. So if you want to know more about that, you'd either call the regional office or you can call us. And we can show you the program where you could go to get that use or that duty, okay? And Chris did talk about that earlier, about irrigation and the different uses and what acre footage amount is tied to those. So if you remember his presentation. Okay, so the grantee is a Hogard Family Revocable Trust. Would we put a mailing address and an email? Okay, so again, you do have, on the portion form, you only have 2 conveyance summaries. You will have to print out more. If you're going to do it a hard copy, you'll have to print out more. Even with the 100%, you'd have to print out more for that. Okay, so, okay. Is there a water right number mentioned on it? No, so yes. Deed type. Warranty deed, okay. Shout it out so we can. Date signed. February 15th, 2012. Oh. Yeah, make sure you're getting the date signed, because you see how I'm trying to do it in chronological order. If you were to say 2012, that deed would come prior to the deed that we just submitted. Okay, date recorded. 2016, hopefully. Okay, no book and page number, I'm just going to assume. What is the entry number?
17042.
And then 2016. We know we have to enter that. Okay, the grantor is now the grantee from the previous. Okay, and on this portion of beneficial use is conveyed. It is, they are going to 3.08 acres is conveyed. Now, this is really important to us, okay? Well, and to you also, because then you can help us and yourself know how much is conveyed. When you are listing the uses on each deed, we want to make sure that you list what is actually being conveyed from that deed. We have some people list like the 3.08 from the beginning to the end, and it's not the 3.08. Like on this one, the first one was 100% of the water right. You need to list that. The second one could be maybe a half of the water right. The third one maybe could be the 3.08 acres of land. You need to list on each conveyance summary what is conveyed as per your deed, okay? We get all the time, and it just frustrates us that when they start off, they just put what is actually being conveyed through all of the conveyance summaries, the same exact acreage. And we know that it's not the same acreage because we look at the meets and bounds description, and it's way different, and sometimes we have to plot it out, which we try not to do that anymore. We'll just send it back. Did you have a question? Oh, I did? Oh, good. Okay, so the diversion limit for this calculated at 12.32 acre feet. And no pending change application. Okay, so on the special conditions information, you know, you can tell us why you think the 3.08 acres is pertinent with that place of use. You know, you can tell us this is what the place of use is listed on the water right. So, okay, now the grantee. Who is a grantee on that deed? And just remember, it does have to be exactly the same as the deed. The grantee needs to read the exact same as the deed. We find that sometimes they'll forget the middle initial, or they'll put their married name instead of the name that they were previous. So it has to read the exactly same on the deed. Okay, the mailing address, since this is the last conveyance, we'll just, you do need a mailing address. And this is one of the reasons why we send it back, is because there is no mailing address. You know, that's hard for us because then we're trying to send it back to the mailing address on the deed, which is wrong. So make sure that you have a mailing address. We send it back to the professional too. Okay, this person decided they don't want an email address. They would rather receive the letter of update through the mail. Okay, so now is the time you would submit the first page. You would complete the first page of the conveyance, since this is the last owner. So at this point, we said we don't have the first page online, so you will need to complete it on the hard copy of the form. So remember, this is a tally of all that was conveyed and what needs to be updated. So this ROC tally would be the 3.08 acres for this owner. Now make sure you put the mailing address on that first page, the email address if you want. The email address is not, you don't have to have an email address. The total beneficial use is conveyed on both the water right and the change, if there is any. So, and as you can see on that first page, we have a lot of room for an explanation or any special conditions associated with this report of conveyance portion form. So you can explain to us in detail why you came to that conclusion that you came to. Okay, again, on the certification, this can only be done by a professional. So let's see. We'll use someone else in the room. Okay, today's date. Oh, make sure you put the license number. If we have to look it up, sometimes we do. Sometimes people will put escrow officer on here, but when we look up the license number, they're also a title agent. We really would rather not do that. We'd rather you put the title agent, but it is important to have your license number on there. Okay. Whoops. Making up stuff here. Okay, and just so you know, okay, this is important to have all this information. I've said that so many times, but I can't say it enough, that we do need all this information. You're ready to generate now the official form, which it will look like the hard copy that you have in front of you. Okay, and make sure when you print it out, you have it signed. Just a note, you cannot turn this in from here. It's not like we have a button and you say you can turn it in. We don't have email or a way to turn it in. You have to mail it in or bring it in yourself. And there is a $40 filing fee along with that, okay? Now let's go back to this report of conveyance. How many maps do you think this report of conveyance needs? I want you to look at the deeds, again, attached to that report of conveyance portion form, and tell me how many maps you think this report of conveyance that's required for this report of conveyance. Oh, wow. 2, exactly. I heard someone say 2, perfect. That is absolutely correct. We do need 2 maps. And the reason why is because, as you can see, the meets and bounds description on that deed is different for each map. Okay, so here is the map the professional submitted for the first deed. I love this map. This is a perfect map. This is a great illustration to our story. This tells us all, you know. It shows us, he outlined the place of use, a parcel, there's a legend, which deed, what the parcel is, acreage. So it's obvious, okay, they received 100% on this first deed. Okay, the second deed. Okay, here is the final conveyance map. And as you can see, it shows the portion conveyed, which is the meets and bounds description on the deed. It shows us that where the place of use is located and where their parcel is located. So, and again, it gives a legend. It gives the deed associated with this map. It's perfect. I mean, it's a great illustration. We always say the ROC tells the story. The maps are the illustration to that story. Really does help to have these great maps. So we were thinking, since, you know, you look at this map and you think, I wish I could do a map like this. I'm going to show you through our database how you can do a map like this, okay? And this might help you to be able to do some maps. Okay, if I can, let's see. And just, if you just hit this Utah Division of Water Rights, so if you're in our database, it'll take you back to the main page. Okay, so here's our main page, and you're wanting to maybe find where your parcel is located. Where I have this parcel on this deed, I don't know where it's located. And so you would go to our water right database. You'd hit this search button, as Sue showed you earlier. But in this case, you don't have a water right number. You would go to the map search. Okay, so you could either hone in on where it's at, or you could do a search of a parcel number. That's what we're going to do today, just to make a map. So, as Sue said earlier, this is important to have the PLSS up. And then we're going to search. And she has showed you could search on even an address. But we are going to search on a parcel in Utah County. And just a note, our database isn't, we don't have if it was subdivided within the next month or two, we're not going to have those parcels on here, okay? So that is the only problem with sometimes our maps. In this case, we're just going to pretend everything's great and the parcel is on here to make a map, okay? We're going to enter the parcel number. Okay, so here is our parcel. Now, it does look like there is a well associated with this parcel, but is that the place of use? And this is where you'll want to, and I'm not going to go into the database, but if you click on this, you can go into the database. Oops, let's see if I can get this up a little further. Oh, that's what drives me crazy. Okay, let's go out. Okay. You can click on this water right and go into the water right, and as Sue showed you the elements that you're looking for, that's what you'll be looking for in this water right. And you'll want to, is the place of use located on this parcel? And according to this water right, which I've already gone into, it is a livestock. It's for livestock right on the well. So you know that this parcel is the place of use that is located. Now, it's not always the same, like Sue said. Sometimes the point of diversion could be miles away. It's a place of use that we're concerned with. That's what's pertinent with the water right, is a place of use. So, okay. So you've discovered the well is on the property and used to water livestock. Make sure you have the parcel that is located on your deed. If you are unsure, you need to plot out that meets and bounds description. If you have a chain of title where each deed has a different description, you will need to plot out each deed and show how or if the parcel has changed through each conveyance. Okay? This map isn't a thing for everything. So if you have several deeds and the description changes, you will need to plot it out. And make sure this is the parcel that's on your deed. Okay, and for training purposes, we'll say, yes, it is. Okay, we're going to center that. Now let's make the map. So maps, we're going to do it as per the mapping standards. Okay, we need a section, township, and range. And again, that's where you can go into the water right, find the section, township, and range that it is associated with. You can also see on the map where the section, township, and range is. So we want to put that on the map, and yeah, you could probably highlight it somewhere on here, but we also, this is a handy tool, the tools, the annotations, and you can put a text on this map. Just put your pointer where you want the text. Here is the text you can use, and put the section. Okay, and you can make the size bigger, you can rotate it, you can change the color, the fill. We'll just go ahead, hit OK. So it has a section, township, and range. Okay, so you now need a section corner. It looks like this is the northeast of the northeast. You will have to figure that out. But that is what that is. So we have this great tool called Point. We click on that and we point on that section corner, and it does a dot. Now, some people, they put colors on there, and we're going like this, going, is that green? Is that the parcel? What is that? We need to have an identifiable color. Okay, so in this circumstances, let's just put it bright blue. That will No, let's see. Oh, that's just, okay. That's just the outline. Okay, here's the fill. So you have bright blue. You can put it as a circle, a diamond, a square. I noticed the cross and the X just hide it even more, so I probably would not use those. And you can make it bigger or smaller, but bigger is better, in this case on the map. So, okay, now you need to label that section corner. So again, you would go to text. Did someone have a, oh, I thought I saw a hand up. Okay, and you might want to scroll out a little bit. And you can move it also by clicking on the text and moving it a little bit if you, okay, so it's the northeast corner. Okay, so far you've got a great map going. You still need to put, maybe you need to put the water right number. Now you can either just highlight, after the map is printed out, you can just highlight that water right number, or you can put it on the map again. It's up to you. Okay, and the north arrow and the scale bar will appear once you print this map out. So you don't need to worry about that, which is part of our mapping standards. Okay, now we need to depict the entire parcel. Okay, just scroll in. Ooh. Okay, so it already is depicted, but we like bright colors, so we don't have to, because if there's several parcels and we hit the parcel thing and all these parcels are popping up, we kind of like it to be very bright. So you would hit this button, area. Okay, and you just outline your area. I wish you could just click on it and it would just color it, but it doesn't, so you kind of have to, ooh, I missed something. Okay, wait, let's go down it. This is a good teaching tool, right? No. Oh, wait, I guess I have to go like that for a minute, and then I'll just delete. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to show you. Okay, so you have to click on area again to redraw that. I guess I got to make sure it's clicked. Oh, it didn't do it. Oh, I guess so. So you have to figure it out, I guess. I know, this is... Okay, so you want to make sure that you have a bright color. And I like the outline maybe, so then you can see it. Okay. Now this is the color fill. I would advise that, because once you fill it, we can't see anything. Okay? So we'll just turn that down so we don't have that. And it does give you, whoops, the information about the parcel right here. So if you want to calculate the shape of the parcel, you can, and enter the acreage that way. Or an easier way, I find, is to go to measure like Sue did, because we do want the acreage and you're measuring the area. Oh, I'm going to have to. Okay, I've got to turn that off while you move it, because otherwise it'll start measuring. See how bright that parcel is? Okay, so you're measuring the area in acres. That's what we need. How many acres are associated with this parcel? I'm what? I'm going the wrong way again? I don't think it mattered. It didn't matter when I did it before. It doesn't. It shouldn't. It shouldn't matter, but, you know, you can try both ways. Whatever works. Program glitch. Okay, so you've got 1.05 acres that was conveyed. Now you need to put this somewhere. So we know how many acreage is associated with this water right. So remember the 1.08 acres. let's get, I'm going to get that thing off. This does give you the information for the parcel. Okay, so far you've got it all. Let's go back down to annotations. And you enter the text, and you would put the acreage wherever you're, and you're telling us that that parcel is 1.05 acres. It'll also tell you, oh, whoops, that maybe this isn't 100% of the water right. Why does it, boy, I'm really having a hard time. 1. Okay. It doesn't like me. Okay, so you've got 1.05 acres. You can go down, you're hitting okay again. You've got the acres. If you need to draw an arrow to where that parcel is, we have arrows right here. Just click on where you're trying to put that arrow. And you want it to face the other way, so let's get the 90-degree angle. Let's see, okay, so you can barely see that, and that's what we don't want. Okay, we want to be able to see that, so we will change the color. Let's go bright red, can't miss that, right? So there you go. And we want to move that a little closer. Okay, so here you have your map. Oh, now you know. It's like, okay, and I would advise you do a close-up of the map and a far away of the map so we know, see the section corner. Then we can see the acreage if you're close up. But once you print this map, see, we'll put the print, it'll look like this. And yeah, you will have to fiddle with it, whatever, but we will accept these maps if it is the parcel that's on your deed. Again, we can't say that enough. So print view. Now see, you can change this up here to put the water right number. This is your map that's going by Pertinence with your deed or whatever. You can change that. You also have down here, it does give you the north arrow with the scale. Once you print it out, you could have down here your legend and write in your legend. You could also, again, use the text information to write your legend so we know. You could also tell us the place of use is where the point of diversion is located on this deed. So, because we do need to know the place of use, and this parcel's place of use is where the point of diversion is located because it is stock watering right on that point of diversion. So remember, if there are several deeds in the chain of your title, each deed has a different meets and bounds description. You will need, Jeff has a question. You will need another map. Okay.
So the division has a map wizard for change applications and applications to appropriate. Why don't they just make that tool also work for reports of conveyance?
Write that in to our ITT. They can't. They've got a list of how much they've got to do, but that would be great. We would love that. So that's a great suggestion. Suggest that to the higher ups, Jeff.
Yeah, that'll happen after we retire.
You have a question? Okay.
So this parcel that you had,
Yes.
For instance, if you do not zoom in close enough and get those corners exactly, the larger the parcel, your acreage isn't going to match up what's on the deed.
That's right. So you have to be careful.
Right. So my question is, if that's supposed to be 1.10 instead of 0.5, are you going to count that as a portion, or do you think that that's the full thing and they've just not clicked on the corners?
This is where you need to specify. This has always been the parcel. The parcel has always been 1.05. And tell us what the story is, because some people turn that in and we'll send it back saying this is a portion. Some cases we'll send it back as a portion. Some cases we'll review and sometimes keep it. Everything is different. You know, every one water right is different. So you need to make sure you're telling us what's going on, because we will send it back if, we're thinking, that's a portion.
Right, and the larger the parcel, the more it can be off, depending on
Exactly.
if they.
And our maps could be off.
Right.
And so that's a problem that we can all have. Even our PLSS system could be off in some areas. So you have to determine this yourself and find out, okay, what is the best, and explain to us what the problem is, okay? Do you have a?
So why measure? Why not just take it off the deed?
And that would be great if it's on the deed. If it's not on the deed, that's why we have that measuring tool. If it is on the deed, you can put that right on the map. As is, you don't have to measure. It is better coming from the deed, but a lot of deeds do not list the acreage. Is there any other questions?
I've got a comment. I was
Okay.
gonna suggest that because kind of that same disclaimer on our website
Yeah.
extends to the maps. So, it's on you guys to use it and understand that it's, a section corner may be off. This is just the best information that we have.
Yes.
Same with point of diversion or the highlighted 40-acre tracts that, it's on you guys to make sure that you go in and verify that those are accurate, because there are errors that we do see. But the acreage on the deed is the most accurate, and you're going to get into, inaccuracies, or you can only get so close when you're clicking with a button, and
Exactly. And so it's you to verify and you to tell us what's going on instead of we're trying to guess, why are they submitting this 100% form when it's a portion? So that's why we have this report of conveyance. Tell us the story. Use the maps as an illustration to show us what's going on. That's all we ask. We just need enough information to update that. So now you're ready to submit all your deeds and maps in the ROC on this portion form. And remember to attach all the documents needed. We don't want just the report of conveyance filled out and then sent in. We need all the documents, the evidence provided, sent in to us. Okay, we'll now turn the remainder of the time over to Sue to complete the training. You here?
Do you want to put this
Oh,
back to the
yeah.
PowerPoint? Am I on?
Well, I guess if you're on the PowerPoint, you want me to stay here? You want to stand up here?
No. I'll just let you do it.
You come over here.
Oh,
You need to be on the monitor.
Oh, okay. Okay, so now that we know when a professional can submit a ROC, but sometimes the question's asked, when can I, as just a water user, submit an ROC? And if you want to refer to this in your rules, it's under 655-3-7. And a water right owner can actually submit a ROC, an update ownership with the Division of Water Rights, when that deed does specifically convey the water right, and it can do it for 100%. Or if the deed conveys a portion of that water right, then all owners are to sign that deed. The water right number has to be specifically identified, and the sole supply of that water right has to have been established. So if you are attempting to update with multiple conveyances, and you're a water right owner, all of those conveyances do have to recite the water right number. And then we're going to go to, Dana's a little slow on the draw. This is my teammate. Where she goes, I follow. I think some of you know that. Okay, so now we're going to cover name changes. When do you want to update ownership on the division's website when there's just merely a name change? And again, you can refer to your rules. It's under 655-3-4. So first, if there's a marriage and there's a name change due to that marriage, then we will need a copy of that marriage certificate, but that will need to be submitted with an ROC. If there's a divorce and a name change is granted in that divorce decree, then again, you'll need to submit a copy of that divorce decree along with an ROC. Keep in mind, sometimes those divorce decrees, though, do award property. We do not update based on that award, especially with the newer decrees. Some of those older ones, they didn't require any additional documents, but some of your newer or younger decrees, I guess you would say, they do require that there has to be additional conveyance documents done by the parties. If there's a joint tenancy and you wish to sever that joint tenancy, you will need to submit a copy of the affidavit and/or death certificate that does evidence the dissolution of that joint tenancy and shows that it's in favor of the surviving party. That's to also be submitted with an ROC. And then, of course, the last is the corporations. If you have a name change for a corporation, you will need to submit to us a certificate of that name change that's been stamped by the Utah Department of Commerce or by the appropriate agency in the state in which that corporation is incorporated. And again, that document has to be submitted with a ROC. Okay, so once you have submitted your ROC, people wonder what happens on our end of it. And this is just merely, this is a really, I don't know, that's a mild example of what really happens with Dana and I. But to process an ROC, you can find that under our rules as well. And if you want to refer, it's under 655-3-6. When the state engineer has received a ROC, we will assess whether or not that ROC is complete. If the ROC is found to be incomplete, then if the ROC is found to be complete, then ownership will be updated and the notice will be sent to the new owner. Now remember, Dana stated that on that ROC that you submitted, if you entered your email address, we'll send it to you, the confirmation via email. If not, then you'll receive a notice by mail. Confirmation saying your ownership is, congratulations, we've updated your ownership. If the ROC is not found to be acceptably complete, then that ROC will be returned to the submitting party with an explanation as to why it's not complete. So if a professional submits the ROC, that will be sent back to the professional, not to the owner that's trying to update, but to the professional that submitted the ROC. If it was just a water user that's trying to update, then it will be sent back to the water user. If that fee was processed prior to that ROC being returned, then the state engineer will do the following. First, we will place a copy of that on our file, and then we will send it back to the submitting party, allowing them 90 days to make the correction. And of course, in sending it back, we send it back with an explanation. Sometimes we request additional information. Sometimes we can't update it all. But generally, we will put in that letter as to what we need from you. If you do resubmit the ROC after having it been sent back to you and you want to resubmit it, please remember that you will need to submit the ROC with all of the documents again and any additional documents that you have submitted along with that. So one of the things that we have happen is if a ROC is returned and say, for instance, you're missing a deed in that chain of title, and so we return the ROC to you, you go and find that missing deed, you send everything back to us along with that missing deed, that's great, but you also need to add that missing deed on your ROC. That has to be added to the form. Otherwise, we find it's not acceptably complete. Also, when the rocks are resubmitted, they're reviewed in the order that they're received. So if you resubmit it, it's not as if it goes on the top of the pile. It goes back into the order that we have received it. As Dana mentioned, we don't accept documents via email to review prior to the submission of a rock, or even if you're resubmitting a rock. If you choose, you can make an appointment with one of us, and we'd be happy to sit down with you and review the documents that you have. I mean, we're happy to do that if you have any questions, if you've come to a roadblock and you don't know what way to move with this, or you're not sure about something. Feel free to call us. We'd be happy to make an appointment and sit down with you. So, the last thing we want to cover is we have exactly, 7 minutes? So just briefly, we just want to take you back to our website if we can.
Uh-oh.
You clip up.
Again, I know, but it's not taking,
Oh, okay.
sorry, Paul, it's not taking us back to the website. I screwed up again.
Your mic's turned off, I can't hear anything.
Mine is?
No, so yours is good.
Oh.
Stop speaking.
You told me to stop speaking. What my voice?
Okay, so the last thing we'd want to show you is, going back to our main page, you would need to go back to the waterrights.utah.gov. And on that main page, under Programs, you can go down to Title Transfers. Under Title Transfers, if you're really not sure where to go for anything that we just covered in this training, there you will find it. Everything that is there at your fingertips. It's like walking through the yellow pages. So the ROC guidelines, that merely is a PowerPoint presentation if you need a refresher, only it's shorter than the one that you just went through today. Here are all of the forms. You've got your ROC forms, your land deed addendums, and your assignments. And then this is an ROC completion checklist. This is really a handy little thing. We use this when ROCs come into our office. This is just a basic checklist that you as the professional can use and go through before you submit your rock to make sure that you've got everything that you need as a part of your packet before submitting. Because when we receive it, we have that first line of defense. Usually it's our, kudos to our front desk, because they're the ones that really help us with this. They go through this and review all the rocks that come in and use this checklist before it even comes back to Dana and I. So that's just a helpful little thing to use. Then there's also the title professionals. This is a list of professionals that we have on our website. If people need a referral for a professional to use for title, you can either contact us, we'll add your name to that if you would like, or we'll remove your name if you would like, if it's on there and you want it removed. The other thing is, going to this title frequently asked questions, this is really great because this has everything and anything under it as well. So again, you can click here, you can find out about instructions on how to complete the rock. Here's the forms again. There is the mapping standards if you feel you need to, if you lose yours and you need another set. It tells about the county recorders. It does connect links to the county recorders. It also talks about different methods of water right conveyances. It talks about different deeds. If you need training, you can click there, or you can contact Dana and myself. And then it will also give you links to our statutes and rules, and also other statutes. So going back, then Some professionals use this, if you click on this, it's the ROC process status. Some professionals in this room use this daily to keep track of where the rocks are. You didn't pay attention. So if you need to know where your ROC is in the process that you have submitted, you can click on that. And again, you know, this is like so transparent. It shows you where Dana and I are in the process right now. So right now we're working on rocks that were submitted around July 18th. So I guess you could say, hey, that's not bad. We're about a month behind, but it's just the two of us that are doing these. So, but if you want to see where you are in the process, you can. It's listed under pending, or if it's completed. We do have some in held. We hold those for various reasons. Sometimes we need to connect with a professional. We have questions. We need to meet as a committee. If we're searching for files sometimes, returned, these are ROCs that have been returned. And it also shows who returned them. And addendums. This is a list of the addendums that have come in from the county recorder's office. Once we receive those, we mail log them in, and then once they're mail logged, then they connect to our pending list, and then you can see if you are wondering if we have received yours, you can click on here. Under menu, you can also just do a search. So for instance, if you know your water right number and you want to know where it's at in the process, you can type in your water right number and then hit submit. And then there you go. You can see who submitted it, the date it was received, what type of ROC it was, the receipt number. I was the one that reviewed it, and I was the one that returned it. So that will tell you where it's at in that status. So those are all the nifty little tools. You know, hopefully all of those will be beneficial and helpful to you. So that's the end of our presentation. Sorry we don't have, you know, a song and dance for you or nobody knows how to juggle.
Sounds like you do it every day.
Oh, yes, we do. The metaphor of juggling we do use every day, yes. But we want to thank all of you for coming. We thank you for your attentiveness, and we appreciate all of you. If any of you need to get a hold of us, I believe our numbers are on the PowerPoint.
More than likely, you have our number.
Or, yeah, you have a direct line 9 to our number.
Just as a reminder, if you're looking for CE credits for through the Utah Insurance Department, make sure you sign that form on the clipboard over here.